Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that tries to figure out whether you should go to the cinema and watch things or stay at home and watch things. Who is winning the battle for our eyeballs?
Let's get ready to rumble!
My name is Tosin and I am the host. I am based up somewhere in the Bromsgrove in the middle of the country, and joining me as always on the Isle of Wight is Sharon Bollen.
Hello.
And joining us from London, our London correspondent is Holly Neslane.
Hello.
For the first time in a couple of weeks. Not joining us is Sean Harris, who is gallivanting somewhere around Thailand, as he is wont to do. So, right, so let's kick off. And obviously, we're talking Netflix or cinema. We go and we watch a couple of things. We rate them all out of 5, and we put them up against each other and say who's won this week. So let's start with seeing what it is that we have actually seen in the cinema this week. So, let's start off with Sharon. Sharon, what have you seen in the cinema this week?
I have seen, I don't know if it's the or just Roofman, but the Roofman at the cinema.
It is just Roofman. Yeah, so it is Roofman. Okay, cool. So we have Roofman and Holly, what have you seen?
I have seen, though I know some have been seen before, I Swear, and The Crushing Machine.
The Smashing Machine.
Smashing Machine, thank you.
It's funny though because Sean made the exact same mistake, calling it the Crushing Machine, and I
can never remember, and I've called it about 4 different things because none of these things stick in my head for some reason.
Okay. So you've seen I Swear and the Smashing Machine. All right, and so we can at the end we can give a little bit of a feedback as to what did you think, just to add to what was our review, because Sean has already reviewed that. All right, and excuse me.
What have you seen?
Yes, that's what I was about to say. Just something was pinging on my laptop, and I was like, "Shut up, go away." All right, yeah, I have seen Roofman. I have also seen Roofman, and I have also seen Good Fortune, in which Keanu Reeves plays an angel. So it's Good Fortune. Okay, how about at home? How about on streaming platforms, Netflix and Friends? What have we seen? Let's go in reverse order. Holly.
I have seen, and I have to check because I wrote it down and I will forget, I have seen Perfect Neighbour and Fearless.
Perfect Neighbour and Fearless. Ooh, and how about you, Sharon? What have you seen?
I've only seen one that I was happy to postpone for another day or not do it all. And that was, I think it's called something like My Father, the TBK Murderer. Something like that. It was like a true crime documentary.
Okay, all right. Okay, cool. So, okay, Holly, I forgot what you said you saw.
Good Neighbour.
Good Neighbour. Or Perfect Neighbour, you said.
Perfect Neighbour, rather, and Fearless. Perfect Neighbour being another true crime? True crime.
True crime.
It's not going to be a good day for coherence, clearly. Words, what are they?
Yeah, if you need any other, what's the word I'm looking for? This itself being evidence. If you need any other evidence, that's what I was looking for. That we are in 6th season where everybody's going down with something, the freshest flu or whatever you want to call it. This, I think, this podcast might be it. This podcast might be the evidence you need that we are in that season. So, Perfect Neighbour and something else.
Yes.
Fearless.
That was it. Yeah. All right, cool.
Memory shot, words shot.
Words short, very short. This is going to be fun. All right. So we might leave you to represent streaming today, if you can. So let's start off with cinema. That's where we usually start, and we have like 2 rounds today with this Roofman, Good Fortune in cinema versus Perfect Neighbour and Fearless on streaming. And let us kick off with Roofman.
Have you done I Swear in the cinema already as well? I think
we have done I Swear. Sean did that.
It was a secret screening.
Yeah, it was last week or a couple of weeks ago.
We've got a preview of it.
Yeah, we've definitely done that. He's definitely reviewed it. Oh yeah. He's reviewed it. Oh, good Lord, 4 weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it came with a secret screening preview on the island.
Yeah, he did it 4 weeks ago, because I was looking back going, hang on, I thought it was last week. No, he hasn't. Oh, there's the list. He did it 4 weeks ago. All right, cool. Let us kick off then with Roofman. Sharon, tell us about Roofman.
Yeah, Roofman is one of those American films that starts off with based on a true story. So you don't know.
It actually says this is a true story.
This is a true story.
Yeah.
So basically, the Roofman is a I could describe him as a burglar who became notorious in a sort of particular area in America, where he would enter premises by digging a hole in the roof, going inside, and either robbing the safe or holding up the manager to get them to open the safe. But he was his trademark was basically that fact that he was polite, and he would lock members of staff in like the freezer, but he'd make sure they had their coats on. And when someone didn't have a coat, he'd give them a coat. And he would like say he'd apologize and say that he would like be quite polite to me. He wouldn't be overly aggressive, but he became notorious in this one particular area for this. That was his MO, was going through the roof. And at the beginning of the film, you see him, you hear a bit of backstory. He's a man with a family. He was an ex-military who basically just could not buy the things he wanted to buy to make what he thought would make his life happier and make his children's lives happier. So he turned to the life of crime. He was arrested, imprisoned to what in sort of British eyes would be like ridiculous terms of imprisonment, 45 years in jail for what we would call false imprisonment, but they said it was kidnapping and reckless endangerment and robbery and things.
Well, I think there's a thing about that where they say that they think he has robbed 45 McDonald's. They think he's robbed 45 McDonald's, but they can only prove that he's robbed one, and he's not confessing to it. So because of that, because they want to prosecute him for the 44, but they cannot prove it, so they decide that every single person that he locked in the freezer was a case of kidnapping, and he got 15 years for each one of them.
Yeah. So he ended up with 45 years in jail. And then our main story sort of kicks off when he manages to devise a way of escaping from his prison.
Yes.
And he goes back into town. He hides out in a Toys R Us. And as part of his sort of like lying low, because they say, don't try to run for it because they will catch you. So you basically have to disappear. So lie low, disappear, be inconspicuous as possible. So he lies low in a Toys R Us store. He sort of fashions himself like a little place to stay, to sleep.
Yeah.
And he picks up some like child monitors, so he's got cameras all around. And he starts to watch the members of staff. And through this sort of like observation it starts off with, he actually gets to know one of the members of staff. Who doesn't know who he is, and then they form this relationship, and then the story goes on from there.
Yes.
So it's this is a true story. So he's plays this almost like a likable guy who sort of like has gone wrong somehow, rather than being a wrong un who's just was born to be sort of in jail. And all these factors. But it's what I thought was quite telling to me. It was like the key to his sort of like characterization. He's described as being very bright, almost genius, but an idiot. And you think
he's got a genius level IQ, but he's an idiot.
Yeah. So you get the feeling that some of the choices he makes, let's just say, are not the wisest choices, and that when he engages on sort of some activity, you're thinking, what are you doing? Why would you do that? That one thing. Or there's one sort of thing where he's trying to cover his footprints at one point, and they said, "Have you had any contact with anyone?" And it was like, yes. I have been to this place. And it's like, instead of any sort of, would it be a spoiler because it's towards the end of the film?
It is a bit of a spoiler. It is a bit of a spoiler. But anyway, the way he. What? Yeah, his way of covering his tracks. While it was happening, I was like, surely there's a simpler way.
Yeah.
I was like, surely there's a simpler way to do this. But
he chooses there's like a reasonable response, and then there's like the crazy town response, and he goes to crazy town basically.
Yeah. There's a response. I'm like, this is only going to make things worse for you, and I think that's the key to the character, because he's played by Channing Tatum. It's called Jeff Manchester. You can actually look him up and see what the real Jeff Manchester got up to. And I think the film is the broad strokes. The film sticks to the actual facts of what happened, and it's. Yeah, and there's bits where he just goes and you're like, oh, dude, that's just going to make things worse for you. That is just going to, you're like, please don't do that. It's going to make things worse for you. Because Channing Tatum plays him as extremely charming, and it's so like, the way Channing Tatum plays him, you can understand why people keep sort of like, just warm to him. Why people warm to him and all that. Because even though he's hiding out in the Toys R Us, he still manages to sort of like, he doesn't spend all
He
his
almost
time
like
in.
he almost like pretends to have he almost has like a double life, doesn't he? During
He
this
does,
sort
yeah.
of period of time.
Yeah, because he does leave
People
the
who meet
Toys
him
R
have
Us.
got no idea.
He does interact with people who have no idea who he is, even though his face is plastered all over the news. After a while, it sort of like dies and nobody really knows who he is. So he ends up, and I think a big crux of the film ends up with him having a relationship with the Kirsten Dunst character, who is called Lee, and with her and her two daughters, and what actually goes on and all that. And it's one of these films, but as you're watching it, you know. I mean, I'm not sure about you, Sharon, but I just got this. It was kind of like a sense of, I don't know, cozy dread, so to say, that you're like, this is sweet, this is really cute, but it's not going to end well. It is it is not going to end well. There is like, there's bits where because if it wasn't a true story, you're like, oh, maybe this could be like, the redemption that this character's going to find. This character's going to find something, this other character, blah, blah, blah. And maybe they're going to go into the sunset together, but you're like, that's not going to happen. That's not gonna happen.
And then some of the things he does, you're thinking, they're going to track this activity.
Yes.
They're going to notice this sort of thing going on.
Yes.
And it's just like, you're just being too blatant.
Yeah,
it's almost like you're a living shoplifter at one point. And I was just thinking, they're going to know that all this stuff is just like walking off the shelf, surely.
Yeah. I mean, there's things. There's a bit in the film where he poses for a picture, and I'm like, what? I'm like, oh. But this is all a matter of
a thoughtful guy, but an idiot.
Yeah. Oh, this is all a matter of record. Yeah. So it's like, but what did you think about it, Sharon?
Yeah, I thought again they played it sympathetically, didn't he? He did play it with that sort of degree of charm, but you want to just clip him around the ear.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes you feel that the people he took in, but he took in all these people. Really, think he actually deceived a lot of people. But
yeah,
he was almost like so likable that they're almost like, you know what? He's actually. Okay, it's like a good guy. So I thought he played it very sympathetically, that he conveyed that whole sense of, he was deceiving these people, but it wasn't any with any real malicious intent.
Yeah.
We feel that so I thought he played well. I think Kirsten Dunst is just class anyway. Yeah. Whatever she does, she sort of elevates anything she's in, I think. Especially if she's called Lee in it. I think that just helps. Because she was Lee in the Civil War, wasn't she?
Oh yeah.
Her character name, and I think she was good. Some of the supporting actors, Ben Mendelsohn was in as the local pastor. I think some of these sort of subsidiary characters, they just elevated it. So I think
it's like
another true story. I thought they actually elevated it to making it much more entertaining.
Yeah, Ben Mendelsohn as you've never seen him before. Ben Mendelsohn, because every time you see I think it's Ben Mendelsohn. I equate Ben Mendelsohn with quiet menace. Like the guy shows up and you kind of like going, "Oh, don't cross him." And I like Ben Mendelsohn in this film. It's kind of like you keep waiting for that character to do a Ben Mendelsohn thing, and he just doesn't. And you're like, really? Is that it? Because it's a small role compared to what Ben Mendelsohn is, because you have him and Uzo Aduba, and I think this is also because I know this is something that Sharon and I have some skin in this game. I think this is also one of the most, I won't even say sympathetic. I'll say it's one of the most level-headed representations of Christians and church life that I think I've seen on screen, because I'm watching it going, I recognize that. Yep, totally recognize. Yep, yes, that is what would happen at a singles lunch. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some of the and then and some of the services. Yeah, even though they're
the services. Oh my word.
Some of them you think, that's not my particular tradition, but I have been to services where it's like that, and so I'm a bit like, I recognize this.
Yeah, I recognize that. Yeah.
I will ready myself because I will therefore too.
So I thought again it wasn't. Then my part of me was thinking, my critical. I put my critical head in now, because I did enjoy it. But one of my critical things was more about, if it's a true story, I was thinking actually some of the behaviours of the family. I was thinking, you are a professed Christian, but some of that sort of, let's say the speed in which the relationship developed, I was a bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Not
it's yeah.
necessarily a timeline I would put, put it in for that sort of relationship.
But yeah, I have come to conclusion that when you say Christian in America, you're
Yeah,
talking
it
about
doesn't mean the same thing.
a whole different level of parameters than you do in some of and I think whenever you go around the world and you say Christian in different places, it means different things to different people.
Yeah,
So the kind of things I would think, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, they might not see anything wrong with it. But yeah, but I do understand what you mean. I do understand what you mean. I've
no, so I thought, on the whole, I enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining. For me, it's still a 3-star film, but I think it's the top end because it was entertaining.
yeah
Everyone did their job really well, but
yeah
I think you are almost slightly limited in terms of progression and development and sort of drama and tension in a film, because of the type of film it is going to be, based on a true story. So
Yeah.
I tend to find that limits the sort of, I don't know, you tend to
the drama.
the drama of it, yeah, that
Yeah
sort of the surprises and stuff. So I
yeah
always
yeah.
think it sort of limits the scope of what you're doing. So, but I still thought it was entertaining, and so I would certainly give it a strong 3. Yeah, certainly worth going to see. But
Yeah,
I
and
don't think you could give it a 4. Really.
I would agree with you almost entirely because I think it just about tips into a 4, but low 4. Yeah, it's kind of like it's in that bracket. It's in that low
Yeah.
3. It's in the high 3, low 4 sort of thing. Because I do think that the performances are great. I think that they're all good, and I feel like Lakeith Stanfield because this film I think is directed by Derek
Oh,
Cian
Peter
France.
Dinklage. I thought
Peter
Peter
Dinklage,
Dinklage.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
have it has a great cast, and a lot of them are in not that big roles. So you have Peter Dinklage as the absolute horrible boss of the Toys R Us. You have Lakeith Stanfield, who is he's kind of like the audience surrogate in the film because he says things to Jeff Manchester that the audience is thinking is like, yeah, you're dumb. Like,
And Juno Temple with a tiny,
Juno
tiny
Temple,
little.
Juno Temple in a
Teeny
tiny
role.
role. I mean, like when she shows up, I'm like, that's Juno Temple.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was like, that's Juno Temple, and you're like, but the way I see this film going, she's not going to have much to do in this film. And sure enough, she doesn't, but she's in the film. And I think people just want to work with the director, Derek Cian France. I think that's the only way I can think about it, is that they just want to work with him because there's people in tiny, tiny blink and you miss it roles. All right, cool. And so that is, I'll say 3.5 stars for Roofman, to kick us off. Holly, have you left us or are you still there?
No, I am here. I am here. I just had to go and spray some carpet stuff on the carpet.
Okay, cool.
As you do, because
I was about to say, has a cat eaten the camera?
Has there been a
no,
cat in-
fortunately, the camera is still on the sitting on top of the monitor for now.
Yeah.
No, one cat is looking unhappy with me in the living room because I sprayed carpet thing, and the other one is probably somewhere else being unhappy with me because I did something else wrong.
So did you spray the carpet thing because of something the cat did?
Earlier on, yes, and I'm having a friend for supper. It's like I wouldn't want to make sure that the carpet is fresh and smelling fragrant and not like a cat had decided to vomit on it.
You see, I would like to point you back to my mini rant on the show last week about my attitude to dogs. Anyway. My attitude to dogs in Hollywood, never mind. I'm going to move on, and we're going to talk about Perfect Neighbor. We're going to talk about Perfect Neighbor.
Oh, Perfect Neighbour is, and this is semi-unusual for us, is a, say, true crime series with an interesting one. So,
Right, true crime, do you mean documentary, or do you mean narrative, sort of like dramatization?
No, narrative. So it is all put together from body cam footage of police officers who attended. And I've never seen anything done quite like it. It is all set in. Now I'm going to have to double check which state it is now because is of some relevance.
What do you remember? What platform you watched this on?
It was on Netflix.
Okay.
And
I'm going to guess Arkansas.
It's Florida.
Okay.
So
Right.
you could have gone either which way, and Florida's stand your ground laws are complicated. I think as we will remember from, because I think Trayvon Martin, Florida.
Oh God, yeah.
Might have
Yeah.
been. So in a small neighborhood where everybody.
Sorry.
Oh, hello.
Sorry. That was just Netflix getting involved. Yes, sorry, you were saying in a small neighborhood.
Yeah, so small neighborhood, very mixed race neighborhood. Everybody rents. Everybody in the main seems to be very friendly. They seem to get on with each other. And there is a woman who lives there who is, let's see if we actually have her name. But she is described as, her name is Susan. She is described as the neighborhood Karen. And she absolutely hates children playing around her house. So she's a, rather, I'm going to say this is terribly judgmental, rather unattractive looking, sort of overweight, bad-tempered white woman in her probably 60s, who is very unhappy. And she is particularly unhappy with one of her neighbours, one of her black neighbours, and their children for making noise. So there are constant complaints. She is calling the police on the neighbour is calling the police on her. She's got a track record for using the N-word and things at these children, some of whom are like 7.
She sounds delightful.
Yeah, she's if you found you were living next door to her, you desperately want to move. And there's clearly it feels like it's probably a year or so. It could be 2 years. A very uncomfortable relationship. None of the neighbours like this woman. Yeah. Who clearly feels that everybody else's existence is an imposition. She wants total silence. She doesn't want anybody coming near her or near her property or her perception of her property. And the police are therefore frequently being called out. So there is frequent body cam footage from the police with them talking to children, with them talking to neighbours, with them talking to the 2 women, and it results in one night an altercation.
Okay. I'm looking at the thing on Netflix at the moment, and what they say is that this is the official blurb on it. She was no stranger to police, routinely calling 911 on kids playing nearby. An American tragedy unfolds through body cam and interrogation room footage. So we'll probably leave it there as to exactly what happens. But
I think it's one can. It is. I mean, it's well known what happened, and it is well documented. But it involves.
It escalates to violence.
It escalates, and it involves a testing of America's stand your ground footage laws, legislations. Because that has been controversial over the years. The most sort of significant one was Trayvon Martin, who was shot when walking down a road, listening to music.
The Sharon. I don't know about you, but I'm getting a kind of like a more intense flavor that we had with Roofman. That this ain't going to end well. This isn't going to end well. Like it's like
sign an antisocial behaviour order and shake hands and.
It's like this isn't going to end well either with for like what happens with Susan and the kids, or for the trying to change a law that has to do with guns in America. I just feel like this isn't going to end well.
It is a very well put together a documentary, for want of a better word. I think documentary probably is the right word.
It is. It's definitely
it's
a documentary.
Really interesting. It's I learnt things, and it made me think, and it was a different way of presenting it, and it was quite interesting seeing how the police came across, because one has a perception of American police, and it's not terribly complimentary in many cases, and that's very much not how they came across in this. And actually I think it was a very good, I don't like using the word advert, but it made you think, there are good people out there, and the narrative doesn't always support that, but that doesn't mean that there aren't.
You might not like the word advert. How about the word apologetic?
Yes, that's probably fair. It's certainly it shows that there's that a situation that the news can make seem quite stark and diametric can be more nuanced in terms of police behaviour. I don't mean in terms of everything else. I think that was all pretty stark, but
America nuanced. Oh no. Anyway, so how many stars?
I give it 4.
4 stars for The Perfect Neighbor. 4 stars for The Perfect Neighbor on Netflix. I might actually watch that, because I've been watching a few documentaries recently, and I feel like Yeah, I think obviously there's been a boom with true crime documentaries, especially. And I feel like with them, you're beginning to separate the ones that actually have something to say, as opposed to the ones that are maybe a little bit exploitative. Like I've seen some of them that are on Channel 5.
Oh.
Yeah, they take a central concept and it's paper thin. And no, actually no, they might even take a meaty concept, but the treatment of it is paper thin. It's kind of like, and there was one I saw. It was about it was about the woman who the police caught. And when they got to her house, she was just kind of like, it's all right, you've got the bad guy, come on in, I've got something to tell you. And she had her parents in, that she'd been living with her dead parents in the house for 5 years. And yeah, I know, it's, and quite frankly, this is like an hour and something documentary. And the most riveting bit about it is the police body cam footage at the beginning and at the end. They could just have shown that and forgotten about everything else, because the rest of it was a whole bunch of talking heads experts who were saying things, and I'm like, you couldn't possibly have known that. That is just total conjecture. There is no way in hell you know that, but you're just saying it like it's fact. And it's like, they're like, well, this woman, what she did is she looked at her mother and she thought, oh, I'm done with you. And I'm like, how the hell do you know that?
Yeah.
The thing is, yeah. So, but this sounds like it's something that it might be a better thing, of a better way of telling the story, rather than someone just forcing a narrative into something because
there is no forcing of a narrative, because what you see is what was seen. I mean, obviously it's
there is still a narrative.
There's editing.
Yeah,
there's clearly editing, but it's nobody's trying to say, and this is what this person is thinking.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So 4 stars for the perfect
Give it a
neighbor.
watch. Let me know what you make of it.
It's one of the It's only an hour and a half as well. So it's not. Yeah, that is in his favor because it's not a series. If they drag this thing out, okay. So we're gonna go. As I see my kids being transfixed by the Jungle Book. They're watching it for the first time. I'll now go back to cinema. We're going to talk Good Fortune. Now, Good Fortune, this is, I believe, written and directed by Aziz Ansari, starring Aziz Ansari, Seth Rogen, and Keanu Reeves, which is the main thing. And it is a kind of idea that we've seen before in cinema or in film, where you have a whole bunch of angels. And so there's like a little bit of It's a Wonderful Life in there, where you have like angels and they're all looking down. But the idea is this, that you have like this hierarchy of angels, and you have angels who are in charge of different things. So you have Stephen McKinley Henderson, who plays an angel called Azrael, and he's like, and because he's like a high up angel, he has massive wings, and he's in charge of lost souls, and he tells you stories about how he saw this lost soul who was on a bridge, and he put his hand on his shoulder, and he showed him what his life would be like what his life would be like if he didn't end his life now, and he turned him round, and he decided that it wasn't a lost soul. They have Keanu Reeves, Gabriel, who is in charge of texting and driving. So what he does is that he stops people from texting and driving. So there's a woman driving a car, texting. He puts her hand on the shoulder and she goes, ah! And stops the car because she realizes she's about to hit something. She's not aware of the angel, but that's what his job is. That's what his job is. And it's sorry, excuse me. Sorry, more things on my computer making noise. So that's what his job is. But he doesn't want to be that anymore. He says, I want to do what Azrael does. I want to go out there and I want to save people. I want to make a difference to people. And that's his whole idea. Then he sees as a Ansari character, Arj, who is working in like the equivalent of a B&Q or a Home Depot or something like that. But he's living in his car. He's trying to make ends meet. He's trying to do the gig economy thing where they have a lot more of them in America, like TaskRabbit and all that kind of stuff. And he finds himself being just sort of like kicked down at every turn. His car gets repossessed. He can't find a way to park it. He tries to sleep in a car park and tell him he can't park there. All that kind of stuff. And so he ends up being an assistant for Seth Rogen's character, who's this rich tech bro. And so Keanu Reeves' character, Gabriel, decides to step in, even though he has no training in the matter whatsoever. He goes like, I found a lost soul. I want to do what Azrael does. So he reveals himself to Arj, and he's like, come on, let me show you, let me show you why your life isn't so bad. And it goes wrong at every turn, because there's Sandra Oh plays the head Gabriel, Martha, and there's a head angel, Martha. And there's a line that's also in the trailer where she goes, what did you do, Gabriel? And he goes, well, I tried to show him that just by having more money, it wouldn't make his life better. It wouldn't solve his problems. And what happened? It solved his problems. So what he does is that he switches places. He switches sort of Aziz Ansari's Arj with Seth Rogen's Jeff. And he's like, oh my God, this is amazing, all that kind of stuff. And then the only thing about this is that this film ends up being exactly the film you think it's going to be. So if you remember Heaven Can Wait with Warren Beatty, or which was remade as Down to Earth with Chris Rock, and any one of those sort of films, that's essentially this film, but with these guys in it. And with Keanu Reeves doing... There's how Keanu Reeves is often... hit with the stick of him being an extremely wooden actor. There are scenes in this where it feels like Keanu Reeves is doing a parody of Keanu Reeves being a wooden actor. Like it's just so you're kind of like, I think you've dialed it up. I think you've actually dialed up the wooden and the sort of the weird line delivery and oh no, I think that's a mistake. And it's just kind of
Where's the I? Long pause and long pause and long pause F, long pause B, yep. Long pause I, long pause agent. Yeah. That always felt like each word was being filmed separately.
Well, yeah, there are periods like that where he's like, so yeah, it's and I feel like there's bits of it. There are bits of it where I did laugh, but I did kind of think, okay, we know where this is going, and it did go exactly where it is. You have Keke Palmer in there, and they try and give Keke Palmer, who is one of those people who is not well. She's usually not well served in films, but they try and give her character more because she's instead of her just being the love interest, she's actually trying to set up a union. And then the film has this whole thing where it tries to do almost kind of like an Eat the Rich thing, where it tries to have a commentary on the rich people and why the only reason why rich people can have so much is because poor people have so little. And it kind of tries to do that, but then try and be like, a bit of a gross-up comedy. And I'm not so sure that the two things meld together. I'm not sure they meld together. It kind of feels, because it feels like it's, well, and this is the thing. Okay, you have Seth Rogen, Aziz Ansari, Keanu Reeves. They are not wanting for money at the moment. Now, there are people in the world who have way more money than they do, and I think that they're complaining about the people who have way more money than they do, like your tech bros. This is very kind of like aiming at people, it's one of those things. But there is still something that is a little bit, I don't know, disingenuous, hypocritical about a bunch of people who obviously do have quite a bit of money talking to you about how, oh my God, those people are terrible because they have money. And there's something about it, I'm like,
injustice, when you're like part of that injustice system yourself.
Exactly. And I know that they do things like, I know that because Seth Rogen plays a guy who has an assistant, and in real life, when you hear about Seth Rogen and his assistants, he seems to be totally different. Like he actually seems to help his assistants get a leg up, and like his show that won a whole bunch of Emmys, The Studio, one of the creators of the show used to be his assistant, and he actually worked with her to develop this show and made her an executive producer on the show. And so Seth Rogen is somebody who I think is actually trying to do something different. Like if you look, like his own, there's some. I'll give him that. But there is still something where you have a whole bunch of rich people trying to tell you about why it's so terrible and why rich people should stop doing this, that, and one of these days poor people are going to rise up and show you. And you're like, you could have done something better with that. I feel like you could have. I was hoping this one was going to be a lot more clever than it was. As it was kind of like straightforward. You kind of knew where it was going, and it got to the point where each person's shtick after a while starts wearing a little bit thin, because I think Aziz Ansari has a certain shtick that starts wearing a little bit thin. but I still think I'm all for him. He almost everything he does now, he casts his dad in it, and his dad usually has one or two killer lines, and his dad has one killer line in this that I was just kind of like, yeah, his dad's not an actor. His dad is not a good actor, but his dad is a great presence. Let's put it that. But all in all, I would have to give Good Fortune a 2 stars out of 5. Yeah, because it's okay. It's okay. It's okay, but
I will still look to watch it.
Yeah.
And enjoy it for what it is.
Enjoy it for what it is. And for those of you who are Keanu Reeves fans, Sherry Cola shows up and she says some things about Keanu Reeves that I think a lot of people would agree with. So, all right, and now let's go back to Netflix and Friends, and let's talk Fearless. So, Fearless, this is a title that has been used over and over again for many different things. When I hear Fearless,
really has, and so I'm going to have to make sure I get the descriptors right. It's
because I'll tell you, when I hear Fearless, I think of a Jeff Bridges movie that was made in the 90s about him surviving a plane crash.
It is not that. It is, I'm checking what year it's from. It's from 2017, so it is not a new one, and it's Helen McCrory. And I am incredibly fond of Helen McCrory as an actress. I think she was very talented, and I saw her on stage once playing Medea, and she was stunning, absolutely superb. If I could watch that again, I would. So she plays a human rights lawyer who works on innocence cases, works with people accused of terrorism, and she is approached by the wife of a man who was imprisoned for murdering a young woman 15-ish years previously, more than a decade ago. And after he went into prison, his son was born, and he has been there for many years, and his wife is desperate to prove to the world that he didn't do it, even though, if I remember rightly, he was talked into making a confession and all sorts of things. So she is focusing on this, and it all happened in the early 2000s. So the timings are about right. It would have been about 2002. A period of time that has some significance. And one of her lead clients is a woman who is living with her, whose husband is a doctor and who has gone to Syria to help. And she is being surveilled. And that is set in 2017. So her house is being watched. She is used to living this sort of experience of being observed, of being threatened, of being harassed, and becomes convinced that, and she wouldn't have taken it on, that her client is indeed innocent.
Okay.
And that she must fight to get to the bottom of it. And alongside, you have the CIA, you have the British police, and all sorts of layers of complexity and conspiracy that you would expect from something of this ilk. But it's a beautifully, and I can't really go into much more detail without moving into a spoiler zone, but it's very well put together.
The way you're describing it is making me wonder when did Line of Duty start? Because this sounds like it sounds almost kind of like you can draw a line between Line of Duty and this, of like all of a sudden the escalation of it starts from looking like a typical British thing and then just sort of like escalates into this conspiracy action thing.
But it's very well done. I'd almost say, beautiful in some ways. Some of the human interactions, the people, the feeling of what a terribly complicated world we live in.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed watching it. I watched it probably over 2 or 3 days. I would absolutely recommend it. It's on Netflix. and it showed up as I'm not sure if it showed up as a suggestion or as something that I had almost started to watch X number of years ago and hadn't quite, and so it just sort of hung around in the you might actually like to get back to the thing you played 5 seconds of. Give it a watch. I would probably give it. I think I'll give it. It's a very high 3/low 4. I'm going to go with the 4 just because I really like Helen McCrory.
Yeah,
I'm probably being a little bit generous, but
well, it's one of those things because Helen McCrory is one of those actors who, I mean, she died a couple of years ago, and it did seem to come out of the blue. It seemed to come out of the blue, and it was the fact that it was around about the time I felt. I mean, she's always been respected, but I felt like around about the time when she died was when she was beginning to become more well known, and she was beginning to like more people in the mainstream were knowing about her. And there were just so many things about it. The fact that she was married to Damian Lewis, who obviously was blowing up at that time, and it seemed to be a happy marriage. And he seemed quite torn about it, like he'd like lost his love. And there's just so much about Helen McCrory and so much about like, you know, her death and all that just makes you. I get what you mean. It's like, you know, she shows up on screen and you're just kind of like, oh wow, it just makes you feel something towards her.
And so there's a risk that you're going to be that I am, it being me in particular, that I'm being unduly sentimental, and having so enjoyed seeing her on stage, but I do feel that she sort of lifts things.
Well,
I'd say I think she in the Harry Potter films was particularly good.
Well, the only problem was that she shared almost all of her scenes with a scenery chewing Helena Bonham Carter. who bit of trivia for you, Helena Bonham Carter played the role that was originally supposed to be Helen McCrory's, but because Helen McCrory was the first choice to play Bellatrix Lestrange, but because she was pregnant at the time, she couldn't, so they roped Helena Bonham Carter in, and they brought her back. They brought Helen McCrory to play Mrs. Malfoy. Yeah,
yes.
Mrs. Malfoy. Yeah, but it's But anyway, also Fearless. I just looked at the cast list, and it has what has to be an early screen performance from Wumi Musaku, which makes me think, okay, cool. Yeah, I am totally behind that extra star for sentimental reasons.
It's got Robin Weigert. I'm not sure that's how you're meant to pronounce it. Who I always think is very good. Michael.
Is she
Gambon.
American?
She is, yes.
Wasn't she Calamity Jane in old Tombstone? What I'm thinking of?
Yes, I think
Tombstone.
So. Deadwood.
Deadwood, that's it. Deadwood.
Yes, she was. I'm just doing the IMDb check. Yeah, Michael Gambon. It's a really good cast.
John Bishop.
He did straight acting at one time, didn't he?
John Bishop. Have you heard that? Okay, you can tell that we might have finished reviewing everything we're going to review this week. But have you heard that there's a film being made about John Bishop's life?
Oh, really?
Yes, starring Will Arnett, directed by Judd Apatow. Yeah, I know. Well, no. Is it Judd Apatow or Bradley? No, it might be Bradley Cooper. It is, and it's essentially because, you know, John Bishop, he was just sort of like walking along, just going through a divorce, everything like that. There was an open mic night, and he got up on stage and just picked up the mic and decided, the film's called Is This Thing On? And he just started like, you know, went up on stage, he said a couple of things, found out he was quite funny, and was like, ooh, maybe I could, and that's how his career started. And they're making a film that is based with that premise. It is essentially his life story adapted into a TV show or into a film. And yeah, I just think it's kind of like, you're like, what? But they've taken it from Liverpool and put it in somewhere in America. Is This Thing On? Yep, there it is. It is, it's directed by Bradley Cooper.
Interesting.
Yeah, who would have thought Bradley Cooper and John Bishop, eh? All right, so anyway, all that's left to say is that you guys have to rack and you have to exercise all the bits of your grey matter to figure out who has won this week, Netflix or cinema. Where did we have a better time?
I think it's Netflix, because I gave it 2 4s.
Yes, yes, yes.
We haven't yet touched very briefly on my thoughts and feelings.
Okay,
About
thoughts and feelings. Thoughts and feelings. Give us thoughts and feelings on Smashing Machine. Go.
very quick. I thought it was an absolutely superb film, but I really didn't like it because I really don't like mixed martial arts, and I do not enjoy people beating the crap out of each other. But I thought it was incredibly well done, and I can understand why people are impressed with Dwayne Johnson for it. And yeah, I thought it was a worthwhile watch that I do not need to repeat, but I'm very glad that I saw.
Have you seen on the back of that all of a sudden he's being described now as box office poison?
Really?
I saw an article about it, I didn't read it. But
Yeah.
I don't know why. What's going on?
Well, it's the last couple of films that he's been in that have tried to make a big deal about him and about the fact that he's in it have not done that well. I think essentially you've had the stereotypical overexposure, which leads to just people decide we've had enough of you, and they just start they just start putting out this thing into the ether that you don't make good things. It's a bit like what happened with Arnold Schwarzenegger and The Last Action Hero, which is a very good film. The Last Action Hero is probably one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's best films. But by the time it came out, Hollywood just seemed to have decided we've had enough of this guy. It's time to bring him down a peg. And I feel like with Dwayne Johnson, it started with Black Adam. And I have to admit,
I've still not watched.
Yeah, I have to admit, the whole Black Adam, I think, was a misfire. The whole campaign building up to Black Adam, I thought was extremely hubristic. And I feel like that's where it started. And that's where people started going, maybe we've had enough of this guy. But then since then, I think it culminated in Red One. When Red One came out, people just kind of thought, you know what, that's it, we're done with him.
I really liked Red One. It was ridiculous.
You see, that's the thing. Yes, that's the thing. I think it's the kind of thing where and I think the critics by Red One, they just decide almost everything you see critically about Red One is that it's a terrible film that is going to rot your brain, and this is what The Rock has been reduced to. And I feel like since then, The Rock is essentially, he's made enough money, and I think he should just go and do weird things now. I think he should just go and do weird things, because if people have decided that he is box office poison, I think just go do weird stuff, man. Because
whatever makes you happy. But I thought he was genuinely good in it. And when they were saying, when the hype had been, could this be an Oscar for him?
Yeah.
I actually don't think that's unreasonable.
Yeah. I've always thought he's a good actor.
Yeah, I think he really, really got it. And I have to say, Hobbs and Shaw is one of my favourite films. And it's ridiculous, and it just brings me joy. Such a stupid film, but I absolutely love it. I've watched it so many times.
It is an incredibly stupid film. All right, cool. But to be honest
very quickly on I Swear,
yeah.
I thought that was superb. I loved it. I may have cried a little bit. Cinema buddy Steph thought that it got a little bit schmaltzy at the end. Which I think is a fair criticism, but I still really, really loved it. I thought it was incredibly thought-provoking and uplifting. And as somebody who has a disability, I found it very interesting to see it from the position of somebody who can't hide their experience.
Yeah.
And how incredibly debilitating and how badly society treats people sometimes. And it starts to give me hope, though, that we can do better.
All right. So how many stars, just out of curiosity, how many stars would you give I Swear and The Smashing Machine?
I think I would give Smashing Machine 4 and I Swear 5.
Ooh. Okay, cool. So you agree with Sean in that he did think I Swear was better than The Smashing Machine, but you just moved everything a star down, which is true to form, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Less so as time has gone by, but historically, yes. If we were looking on trend, I think you would find I consistently am between 1.5 a star above Sean.
Yes, that is good. All right, cool. So I think that is everything. And okay, Sharon, thank you for pointing this out to me. That I should say, for anybody who's watching us on YouTube or anything like that, please do like and subscribe. It does help us get our numbers up. Blah 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 blah, all that kind of stuff. And I hate saying that, but please
like and subscribe, people. Like and subscribe.
Yes. Sharon is our.
I watched the numbers.
Yes, Sharon is a stats. Sharon is a stats guru, and she said, "Okay, well, we need to say like and subscribe. So like and subscribe. We're going to change
Like
the
and
name
subscribe. Help us to be a voice of, positive and thought-provoking insight into Netflix and cinema.
Whoa! I would not go that far, Sharon. I would not go that far. I would not go that far. That is definitely over promising.
Don't spoil my fun.
That is definitely over promising. Oh, okay, we might start fights if that's kind of thought provoking. We might start.
I'm okay with that.
All right, but please do like and subscribe us on YouTube. Do follow us on, I think we are on, you can follow the podcast on YouTube. You can follow us on Spotify. You can follow us on Apple. Anywhere you get your good podcast, you can find us. Please do that and also get in touch with us. I think YouTube seems to be a very good place where people do let us know what they think. Find the individual reviews and then put what you think underneath there. Maybe you did think like, I don't know, Good Fortune was a 5-star masterpiece and Keanu Reeves should be hailed as this generation's, I don't know, Daniel Day-Lewis or something like that. Maybe that's what you think. Please let us know. Let us know. Well, as we might have shown in this thing, this is not about us being right because sometimes we just aren't. Anyway, until next week when God knows what we will be watching, it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for joining us.